All eyes on the king's next move. Anwar Ibrahim presents his majority claim to the Malaysian ruler and calls on the Prime Minister to step down.
Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has lost his majority and therefore would be appropriate for him to resign.
New rules are coming in next year. Drone flyers must get licensed or face heavy fines.
And what you need to know about keeping your home cameras secure after hackers sold stolen videos on pornographic sites.
Hello, you're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Haryanto Diman.
And I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
New developments in Malaysia today. Opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim met the king this morning, presenting him with documents proving that he has majority support in parliament to form a new government.
Mr Anwar telling a news conference this afternoon that the list contains the names of more than 120 lawmakers. That exceeds the 112 he needs in the 222-seat parliament to claim control of the House. However, the palace has since issued a statement saying that Mr Anwar presented only the number of MPs who allegedly support him but did not reveal their names.
With these documents, it is abundantly clear that we have registered a formidable, convincing majority in Parliament, or among parliamentarians. I would appeal to the Malaysians to exercise patience, wisdom, and to allow the King to digest and decide based on the spirit of the Constitution and the discretion of His Highness. Meanwhile, we must also remember that Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has lost his majority and therefore would be appropriate for him to resign.
Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh joins us from Kuala Lumpur. Shannon, Mr Anwar said he has the majority of support in Parliament, but the palace said he only gave the number of MPs, but not their names. Can you give us some clarity on this?
Well, we have two statements from the two figures, not exactly contradicting, but there is a gap in their two narratives of what happened. Now, Dato Sri Anwar, of course, has said that he provided documents, declarations of support, affirming that he has at least 120 MPs behind him. What the palace statement seemed to indicate was that Anwar made this claim, but did not supply a full list of names. Now, Anwar didn't claim to supply a full list of names. He claimed to supply documents which prove that he had more than 120 MPs. So there is a bit of a gap. Exactly what are the documents? And if you didn't, why didn't you list out all the names? Right from the start, Anwar has refused to reveal the exact identities of who are the defectors. And it appears as if he, in front of the Agong in his audience with the king, he's also refused to reveal the identity of the names of the defectors. So this is the situation we are at now. It appears as if even the palace does not have full clarity of who exactly are the 120 plus MPs that Anwar says supports him.
Right, okay. Well, the king hasn't reached a decision yet. So, Shannon, how would the matter play out, you think? What are the likely scenarios here?
Well, if you go according to the letter of his statement, what the Agong seems to indicate is that I don't have to make a decision. He has advised Anwar to go to follow the letter of the law, legal provisions provided in the federal constitution. It seems to indicate to some observers that he is asking Anwar to go to parliament and defeat the government in a vote. Now, the very next vote that's coming up is the budget vote, and if the government loses that, that's effectively a motion of no confidence. That seems to be how some are reading this statement from the Agong. But clearly, the Agong is saying, I'm not going to make a decision, at least not now. And we have heard that he is summoning other party leaders, other top political figures, to see what they have to say about this. And perhaps he is trying to ascertain or confirm Anwar's claims with other politicians to see if it is necessary for him to act at all.
If this bid doesn't work out for Mr. Anwar, is this the end for him? I mean, I would say, for one, his credibility would take a hit.
I think when we last spoke, we did talk about the many various times that Anwar has claimed that he was going to form government, that he had won or he had a majority. And if this doesn't succeed, it will be chalked down as another time the boy cried wolf, so to speak.
Yeah.
It will be, I would say, the end of this particular bid. I don't think he can launch another similar gambit before the next elections to make it yet another claim that he has a majority. That is if he fails this time, of course. But I don't think that that is the end for him politically as a whole. I mean, I believe he will still be involved in the next election, whether as the opposition leader, whether as the prime minister candidate remains to be seen. It does dent his credibility, and it does dent whether he would be the opposition's main prime minister candidate. We know there are a few names in the hat. So it would also depend how they perform in the next election. He could very well win, and then that would solve the entire equation altogether. But I think if it fails right now, we won't see him launch a similar bid before the next election are called.
Well, on the flip side, say Mr. Anwar does become PM this time, immediately, what challenges lie ahead for his administration?
I think immediately people will look for him to do better than the Muhyiddin administration. Now, the Muhyiddin administration was perceived to have done well handling COVID all the way up to last month until the current wave. People are saying it's the third wave, right? And if an Anwar administration can handle that better, immediately people will say that, yes, this is a good government, this is a government that we should keep in place. Aside from that, he will face the same challenges Pakatan Harapan faced when they were in power. A lot of right-wing Malay rhetoric about whether the Pakatan Harapan government was trying to undermine Malay interests. Anwar will have to face those kind of issues as well. And I think that's why in his statements, in his press conferences regarding this particular bid to take over government, he's always stressed that this will be a government that at its core is Malay Muslim dominated. This will not be a Chinese-led government or a minority-led government. And that kind of messaging, I think makes him, it clearly shows that he's aware of the challenges that Pakatan Harapan face, and these are the same challenges he will have to overcome if he becomes Prime Minister.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Shannon. We'll check in, of course, again as this story develops. We've been speaking to the Straits Times' Malaysia Bureau Chief, Shannon Teoh.
An update on the COVID-19 situation here. There were no local cases in the community or from worker dormitories among the 4 new cases reported today. This was the first time since March 25th that no cases from dorms were reported. The 4 cases today were all imported, and they had been placed on stay-home notices upon their arrival in Singapore.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry reported last night that a 64-year-old man who had a history of hypertension has died from complications due to COVID-19. He was the 28th patient to die from the virus in Singapore, almost 3 months since the last COVID-19 related death.
Also in the local headlines, dengue cases have dropped by about 70% since the peak of about 1,800 reported cases in a single week in July. Minister of State for Sustainability and the Environment Desmond Tan wrote on Facebook last night that 532 new cases were reported last week. In order to avoid a second spike in weekly dengue cases before the end of this year, he said cases would have to be brought down by more than half.
From February next year, all adults flying drones above 1.5 kilograms in weight will have to go through training and pass an exam to get licensed or face hefty penalties. The Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore said today there will be 2 different certificates, an unmanned aircraft basic training certificate and an unmanned aircraft pilot license. Only those 16 years old and above can apply, while those below 16 who wish to fly drones must be supervised by an older license holder. Those who fly drones without the appropriate licenses can be jailed up to 2 years, fined up to $50,000 or given both punishments for the first offence.
Some 1,286 resale condominiums changed hands in September, with demand picking up and prices holding steady. That's up 0.4% from August and 62.8% higher than September last year. It's also the third month in a row in which more than 1,000 units were sold. According to one analyst, some buyers believe the worst impact of the pandemic is over and it's time to re-enter the property market.
Well, this next story is getting a lot of views on straitstimes.com. Have a look. Singapore home cams hacked and stolen footage sold on pornographic sites. The videos appear to be taken from IP or Internet Protocol cameras commonly used in homes here for security purposes or remote monitoring.
The hacked clips feature couples, breastfeeding mothers and even children. Most in these groups were in various stages of undress or compromising positions. So who's behind the hack? Well, apparently a group which can be found on social messaging platform Discord that is dedicated to hacking IP cameras.
So how do our IP cameras get hacked in the first place? Well, let's discuss this with tech editor at the Straits Times, Irene Tham. Now, Irene, how could instances like what was reported happen? What loopholes do we look out for?
Well, these are Internet of Things or connected devices, and they've contributed to a growing IoT nightmare simply because the rules that surround how they're being protected in cyberspace are lax. If you search on e-commerce platforms such as Shopee, Lazada, and Qoo10, you notice that most of these cameras are unknown brands from Chinese manufacturers, and they have many problematic settings. Among these problematic settings, we have default passwords or no passwords at all to secure the devices. And the images captured by these devices are stored on a cloud platform, and many of these platforms may not be properly secured even. And then users also have no option to store the images on their own Google Drive or removable storage hardware. So users who do not know any better buy these cameras because they're cheap and easy to install. And we also know that some companies are known to have installed these cameras as they're cheap, but there may be a price to pay when the data is leaked.
So how do we secure our IP cams then, Irene?
Okay, well, I guess users should first exercise caution when selecting what to buy. It's not like, a computer, which you can install a antivirus scanner or software to protect your system. You have to choose a camera from a reputable sellers, first things first, and select a product that allows you to set your own password. Do not use default passwords that come with the product. Users can also look forward to a new cybersecurity label that rates the security of IoT devices like surveillance cameras in the months to come. These security labels are similar to your energy labels. It helps users to decide how secure they are, and then it helps with the buying decision. The voluntary scheme is pioneered by the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, recognizing the growing problem, and it has been launched and first for Wi-Fi routers and smart home hubs, but it will be expanded to cover security cameras in the months to come. We can expect that. So like energy labels, the more asterisks you have, the more secure it is. So the very basic is it comes with a unique password that users can set and security software updates.
Right. Well, it's not just IP cams. Now that many of our viewers are working from home, our laptop and desktop cameras are potentially vulnerable to cyber criminals. So, Irene, this happens even when the camera itself isn't switched on. That's a bit concerning, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is, which is why I put a sticker over my camera, my laptop camera, by default all the time, unless I need to turn it on and use it for virtual meetings like this. So it is a very cheap solution. Just get any sticker and just stick it on, if not in use. But you'd have nothing to worry about because most laptops have operating systems with baseline security features already enabled. Some of these baseline features are access and password management. And most work computers also have additional security software such as your virtual private networks and antivirus scanners. So they are already secure and they are not that easy to hack into unless users themselves click freely on links embedded in emails that take them to dodgy websites where malware can be found. So trust me, if malware is already in your system, camera images were the last thing you worry about because you worry about also your files and online transactions, including banking passwords and all these. will also be at risk of being stolen.
So, Irene, laptops are one. And then, of course, we have our personal gadget, right? Like our mobile phones, even our tablets as well. Are they also, at risk of being hacked as well in a similar way? And if so, how do we protect our personal devices?
Okay, so like laptops, the operating systems of most smartphones and tablets come with baseline security features and privacy settings. While we may have seen reports online about Chinese smartphone and laptops makers, having installed secret backdoor programs to allow text messages, emails, and images to be sent to China. Well, we do not know if the data is indeed being sent to China or if the data is used for advertising or foreign surveillance purposes. But if users are being spied on, I think they should watch what they download because this is something they can control. Many mobile apps seek access to a lot of sensitive information, such as users' online and social media identities and location. Some apps even ask for your microphone and camera functions to be accessible by the app. So smartphone leaks, if it occur, or laptop leaks or tablet leaks, if they occur, are most likely through dodgy or poorly secured mobile apps. So if you really want to, be safe, do not freely download anything from app stores or what have you, or even side load applications. Make it a point also not to freely click on links embedded in your text messages or WhatsApp, because you may be taken to websites where malware can be found.
Right. Well, great advice there, Irene. Thank you so much for coming on to the show to shed more light on this matter. That was tech editor at the Straits Times, Irene Tham. A quick look at the global headlines. Malaysia plans to distribute more welfare aid to the poor and needy in Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya as the cities brace for tighter movement restrictions to curb the coronavirus spread. The Conditional Movement Control Order, which will begin after midnight today, is set to last until October 27th in the state of Selangor. Launched in March, the initiative has allocated 63.6 million ringgit to aid small business, frontline workers, patients and residents.
South Korea reported its first triple-digit rise in COVID-19 cases in 6 days, raising concerns after the government relaxed some social distancing rules this week. 102 new cases were reported in the country, among them 33 imported infections, with the largest portion coming from Russia.
Johnson & Johnson has temporarily stopped its COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials due to an unexplained illness in a study participant. The company said that the participant's illness is being evaluated and that more information will be shared after an investigation. This is the second time a front-runner developer has encountered such a situation in the intensifying race for immunization, with AstraZeneca also pausing tests last month after a participant fell ill.
US President Donald Trump returned to the campaign trail for the first time since his COVID-19 diagnosis. His outdoor rally in Florida was the first of 6 planned events this week as he kicked off a three-week sprint to the November 3rd election. In his hour-long speech, Mr. Trump tossed out masks to thousands of supporters and repeatedly talked about his recovery from the coronavirus.
Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience. I'll kiss the guys and the beautiful women and everybody. I'll just give you a big fat kiss.
Meanwhile, the California Republican Party has admitted responsibility for placing more than 50 unauthorized official drop boxes for mail-in ballots in several counties. State officials said that the action was not only illegal but could also lead to voter fraud. The fake dark grey metal boxes have been popping up in conservative areas in Los Angeles, Fresno and Orange County over the past 2 weeks and are virtually indistinguishable from those approved by the state.
Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.